I've recently become fascinated with the term Rizz, which is all over TikTok through trends and clips like these.
Hey, can I talk to you real quick? What's your name?
Rachel.
I'm Jay, nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you.
How are you doing today?
Good.
You just coming from like class? What'd you get?
10-piece.
Okay, that's always a go. I get that all the time. You get it spicy?
No.
No?
You get spicy?
Yeah, it's always good that way. When I came over here because I thought you were pretty cute, I was like, I gotta ask, can I get your number?
Yeah.
Okay.
Always. Seems like
Sensational.
I can't get away.
It's become this inescapable term, referring to something apparently inexplicable, a mythos, an idea of attractiveness in a personality, that like a manifestation ritual or a secret potion, people are lined up to marvel at, enticed at the prospect of acquiring it for themselves through some sort of application of effort or capital. And on the other hand, it's all a big joke. It's nothing but a funny shortening of the word charisma. Get it? Rizz. It's like za to pizza, except for getting girls, I guess. And aside from that, it's not really real, it's not very convincing, and people are convincing themselves of it in a silly way. In a way, it's an impossibility we play with as an implicit acknowledgement of the intangibility of actual social relations, and the pathetic human tendency to aim to, and pretend to, in a grasp for social glory, uncover its deep, dark secrets. So I got bored. Let's do a dialectic of Rizz. Part 1, establishing a theoretical framework on the dialectic of... What the hell is that? Part 1, establishing a theoretical framework of the dialectic of Rizz. Before doing our dialectic, we must establish core questions. And so I've chosen 2. 1. What is Rizz? 2. Is Rizz something worth having? Oh shit, I have to explain what a dialectic is now. What is a dialectic? As defined by the Stanford Encyclopedia of Philosophy, is a method of philosophical argument that involves some sort of contradictory process between opposing sides. According to a pinned comment on a theory and philosophy video, often this is explained with bad etymology that says dia from ancient Greek in dialectic means to, but it actually more means through, with lectic coming from lektikos, which refers to speech or the art of speaking, meaning that the conventional definition arrived at that. What is our dialectic of Rizz? So we're going to choose a dialectical method. So we've decided to choose the dialectical method of Georg Wilhelm Friedrich Hegel today. Behold the frightening gaze of his Wikipedia page. As I understand it, Hegel sought to adapt the idea of dialectics from its origins in Greek philosophy to something that he felt would be essentially more scientific and less stuck in abstraction and negation. Because like dialectics in the ancient Greek tradition felt more like people saying, no, nothing is real, everything's contradictory, ha ha ha. Hegel says, no, we're not doing that. In particular, his dialectical process rejects a type of reductio ad absurdum, or the idea that a contradiction disproves the validity of the idea. The Hegelian dialectic is like, nah, it's all about the contradiction, baby. It's sort of like looking for contradictions in things to come closer to defining the true essence of it. Like that's the only real way to do it. Through examining the contradictions, we can get to a more sophisticated idea which can help us understand the world better. Hegel traditionally has three stages of his dialectic, as he explains in the Encyclopedia of Philosophical Sciences. The first part is the moment of understanding, which is the idea that seems to be true, seems like everybody agrees with it and its definition. This can also be defined as the abstract or the thesis. Then there's the dialectical or negatively rational moment, where the moment of understanding contradicts itself due to how restricted and one-sided it is. This can also be called the negative or the antithesis. Last is the speculative or positively rational moment, where we look at the unity of those contradictions, get rid of certain ideas that the contradiction can deem are no longer important or useful, and settle on positive claims, new ideas that become a new moment of understanding to go through the process all over again. This part can also be called the concrete or the synthesis. In other words, we're about to overthink and overthink hard, baby. And don't forget, folks, everything true, insofar as it is comprehended, can be thought of only speculatively. Let's go to an ad break. What is Rizz? I want to start with presenting our moment of understanding with regards to the Rizz. To do that, even though concrete and abstract are subjective, I will be building an understanding of the Rizz that feels most commonly accepted. Generally, people attribute the word Rizz to Kai Cenat, who is currently under a lot of criticism for his apparent mishandling of an SA situation. Cenat is credited as the person who, if not coined it, popularized it.
Rizz started with me and a few of my friends from back home. We only used to say that. Like, imagine like 10 people just saying Rizz and it never got out or nothing. Then I came on Twitch. Like, people don't really know where it's from, but I was publicly saying Rizz on like what it meant. Or I kept saying like, yo, I got Rizz, a W Rizz. At first my chat was like, bro, what the fuck? Like, Rizz, that shit sound mad weird. So let me define it for you.
According to Cenat, Rizz is when you talking to a girl and at first shit is not going your way. It's looking bad for you, my boy. Until you spit game to where, okay, hold on, shit is starting to go your way. You're so slick with your words and what you're saying to where the girl's like, okay, who this? A simpler definition would be something like a strong charisma that allows you to get romantic interest from potential suitors even in unlikely scenarios. It's a usage of words, it's a body language, it's a emotional intelligence, it's a dance. It's a dance, baby. Now this term is different from something like confidence, which can be applied in a lot of different situations, and especially not only in terms of courting people. And it's different from a term like charisma itself, because charisma also can be used in a lot of different situations. This has to do explicitly with relations with people that you're trying to pick up, and an ability to do so well. Now let's have our dialectical moment. What's the contradiction here? I have two main points. First, how can you detect whether somebody is becoming more into you in a conversation because of your Rizz? You can't read people's minds. Perhaps their attraction in you, if we're to suppose that they're actually becoming more attracted to you, is coming more from their own mental decision or their own conditions. Like they decided to be more open-minded to you because they've been rejecting people too much lately. Or they feel really good today because they had a nice morning. All these things are external influences that have nothing to do with you and your Rizz, but are likely to help a person become more interested in you if you were to court them. And the point here is that then Rizz becomes less and less something that we can tangibly say is about picking people up, because attraction isn't something that only one person causes. Attraction is something that happens between two consenting people. You can't create it in somebody else against their will or force their will to be a certain way or make their will a certain way. They're going to be attracted to you ultimately because of them and you. The second point, is this not a dude thing? Socially, people who are not men are discouraged from doing this type of thing to pick up on people because femininity is associated with being docile, being the reward rather than the chaser. If anyone can have it, then why is it coded towards men? Why is it something that men are encouraged to have and women are discouraged in having? Or when a woman does it, are we suggesting that that's a masculine coded thing that she's doing, that she's being the Rizzer, the guy who picks up on the person? If Rizz is something that exists in a person regardless of their gender, are we saying that this is something that is utopian almost, in that we're imagining it as a concept that exists outside of current social conditions and is more about the life, the world that we kind of want to live in, wherein a person can have Rizz regardless of their gender despite the way conditions are now? Or are we actually reifying current social conditions? Like, are we actually saying, well, Rizz is a good thing for men in the way that it's currently treated, currently looked at, and so we're reifying that, we're empowering that, and we're suggesting that men should have more of it, or that it's good when a man has it. These are some of my contradictions that I'm finding. I'm finding that there's a contradiction in the concept that anyone can have the Rizz, and there's a contradiction in the concept that the Rizz is what it is, like that it can convince a person to fall for you based on your ability to do something. So let's synthesize. Let's do an ad break first. Conclusion, is Rizz something worth having? Ooh, dramatic. So you might be wondering, why am I talking like this? Let me put it this way. There's an ongoing debate, one that I'm honestly pretty tired of and don't have much to contribute to in my mind, about whether or not leftists or progressives or non-toxic people need to do a better job appealing to young men. A lot of people are noticing that men are in crisis, much like everyone else, but I digress. A crisis of alienation and mental anguish, wherein the world seems to be falling apart and many men, seem to be constantly rejected by the society around them. And so a lot of them are turning to right-wing reactionaries to give them some sort of solutions, something to buy into, to help them deal with that insecurity. And so the suggestion is that a lot of the ugly stuff that comes from followers of Andrew Tate and other manosphere folks could be in some way curbed if people on the other side were to extend a hand and relate more and try to really empathize with and work through men's struggles throughout the world with this. There's a channel called That Dang Dad. This guy has a great response to this, in my opinion. Here's what I'll say. I'm all for being compassionate and giving the education and resources to support people, to help people, particularly when it's something you feel ready to give, you want to give. But it's also naive to think that just reaching out to people is going to be enough to change their minds. I mean, leftists have already been doing this, right? Growing up, I was somebody who was quite left-leaning from a very early age. I was interested in social justice stuff as a preteen. I started watching The Young Turks as a preteen, and I became more and more radical as I aged. And yet, I was still often a pretty bad person to many women around me. I had a lot of women friends, and I could be a great friend sometimes. And then I also had a tendency to get attracted to someone, become really upset when I'm obsessed with them and they're not reciprocating, they're rejecting me in some way, and then mistreat them. I would sometimes mistreat them. And that's something I still feel a lot of shame about to this day, even though it was something I didn't want to happen. I didn't want to be like that, and I wasn't conscious of it. You know, aside from the fact that I was super young, I'm still fairly young. I was a kid who was growing up with a lot of insecurities and didn't know a lot of things. And yet I still feel that shame, to be clear. I'm sharing this with you not because I want credit for changing my ways and seeing the error of my past actions. I'm sharing this to show that political leanings and education really don't do much at the end of the day to deal with that kind of issue, to deal with the insecurity of rejection and the obsession with being wanted and all the toxic masculine things, if you want to use that terminology, that a lot of men will do in reaction to that. This is based on an obsession with attraction that I think is a very prevalent thing in our culture. I think a lot of men are obsessed with manosphere content, not just because they're depressed or ignorant, but because of this feeling of rejection. They think that they're being rejected by society and being rejected by women, and that means the world is ending. And generally, when that happens, most people are going to stop at nothing to bury that insecurity deep within themselves, to tell the world a story of overcoming their inferiority, like their Deku from My Hero Academia, but with like girls, I guess. And it's not just about attractiveness, to be clear. It's about rejection as a whole. But there's an especially noticeable connection of a man's worth and his ability to be accepted with his ability to court women. And that's why so much of TikTok discourse is obsessed with attractiveness. You know how they say that hot people don't have to worry about anything? They're just living their life. They don't got a care in the world, not a thought in their head, just vibing. This is an idea that we have because we correlate attractiveness with success and like ugliness with failure. And given that this is one of the loneliest, most anxious periods in civil history, there's a whole lot of people that are insecure about what's happening out here and are trying to escape it through here. So of course, a lot of people become obsessed with Rizz on TikTok, just like a lot of people got obsessed with the female gaze guy. You know, the guy who wasn't hot, but then did a look in the camera and magically became hot and changed the world. And that's also why we're obsessed with things like buccal fat removal and aesthetic bodies. Of course, a lot of young men are spending their time watching hot, slightly older men usually flex their abs and jaw lines at them and give them advice about how to be confident. And of course, a lot of young women are on YouTube watching manifestation videos and then watching Chloe Ting workout tutorials. The word postmodern is super complicated, much like the word Rizz or Hegelian dialectics. Lyotard, in his seminal book The Postmodern Condition, defines it as incredulity toward meta-narratives. While modernist philosophy and society was constantly seeking deeper meanings of life and understanding the world as things were changing so rapidly with new technologies and capitalism, he said the word. Postmodernism can be thought of as that feeling you get when you're on TikTok for an hour watching videos about a particular topic, and then you put the phone down for 5 minutes and you think about it and you think about it and you think about it and you just feel really weird and bad and think to yourself, you know what, I just don't know anything about this at all. And so you go online and you post a Hasanabi meme and eventually move on with your life. On to the next crisis of consciousness. It feels bizarre to use the dialectical approach of Hegel, who's maybe the founder of Western modernist philosophy, to describe a decidedly postmodern phenomenon in Rizz. Like, feels weird, right? The video feels weird. Because speculation is frowned upon when you're in the presence of constant overflowing information in the information age. Big ideas just don't seem to matter to people in the same way. Instead, everyone's just super divided on their own meta weird cloud, thinking about all the 5 different things that they're weirdly into and the weird conjugations between them. And really uninterested in opening up to any new thing that introduces itself in a way that's not efficient to you. Everyone's got this great big theory about what the left has to do. And it's always worded like some simple, straightforward answer that everybody just has to hear. The left just needs to appeal to men, as if the left, as we understand it historically, hasn't been like 90% men talking about men to other men, and as if feminist theorists like bell hooks haven't been talking to men and trying to bring men into feminism for years. Or the left just needs to stop infighting and work together, as if conflict isn't a part of every social movement, including some of the most impactful in human history, and as if people don't have constant conflicts and separations in their personal lives. And maybe the most relevant claim to this channel, the left is all in their heads, just thinking about things, and they need to go out there and talk to the real people and help real people do stuff. The left just needs to go out and do stuff. And that's all fine and well. I support doing stuff. Doing stuff is great. I do think we should do more stuff. But then you walk out the door and the thing dawns on you that you don't know what stuff to do, because you don't know exactly what the problem is or how to solve it, and what your role is in that. And the only way to know what the problem is and know what the solutions can be is to study and learn and think a lot until you realize that there are not really any simple answers at the end of the day, and complex answers don't really motivate people. You know what motivates people? Rizz. Oh God, I banged the table. You know what motivates people? Rizz. When Kai Cenat defines Rizz, the first thing he does is talk about a situation. I think this is important. The situation is that you're trying to chat someone up, but nothing's going your way. And yet you find a way out of that rejection through your sheer ability. Isn't it interesting how that's the important example he gives to define Rizz? I think it is. TikTok comment sections keep fighting over what Rizz really means, because Rizz isn't something you could really define. But it's something that everyone seems to want because it's a simple answer. It's an ability to, against all odds, escape rejection and be wanted by someone you want. And thus, it's both everything and nothing at all. There's your synthesis. Thanks for watching. Hit like, comment, subscribe. Let me know what your thoughts are on this fun little weird thing we just did, and tell me how your week is going. Thanks.